We all probably remember the time when we were told by our parents to do chores, to take out the trash, to wash the dishes, to cook some food, whatever. But did you actually find that those activities enjoyable? Sure, probably not. But then when you actually did it by your own initiative, you took initiative, you actually wanted to do them, when you want to take out the trash, just to help your family, to impress your parents, when you made the food, then actually cooking is really fun. It's really fun to cook. If you can choose what to cook, if you want to cook. But then if somebody else tells you to cook, then it's maybe not as fun. This is because own initiative is the best initiative, because when you actually want to do something, you actually try, and you try, and you try, and you try. Many people have it hard, and they struggle when they try to do something because they can't take initiative, because they need a boss or a teacher or somebody to tell them what to do. But that's the thing, you need to learn to take your own initiative, because first of all, you will enjoy the process much more. Second of all, you will be able to set your own goals, to set what you want to do. And third of all, it is much better because you actually achieve the things you want to achieve, not just the things the teacher or your boss wants you to achieve. As an example of own initiative is the level of reading I've gotten to, because when I was younger, when I was in lower grades, I didn't want to read at all. I didn't want to read at all. You got a book from school. Nope, I did like everybody else. I never read it. Or sure, maybe you have read it, but I didn't want to read. It was a real struggle. I just didn't feel like it. And that's how it is for many people. And that's why many people hate reading, even into their adult lives, because they were forced to read. And that took the joy out of it. But then, now later in high school and later in my years now, I have started reading so much that I'm actually craving to read a book. I'm craving to start the next book. I'm craving for it. That's how crazy own initiative is. That's how powerful it is. Nobody told me to start reading self-help books. Nobody told me to read productivity. Nobody told me to read about the mind, to read about psychology, to read about philosophy. I wanted to do that myself. Sure, I may have gotten inspired by people on the internet, by seeing them improving, by seeing them reading, but I took the initiative to read. Nobody forced me to give me a bad grade because I didn't read. And this has led me to reading a lot and just wanting to read, to want to read. And that has also helped me with not being on social media as much, even though I might fall sometimes back into it. But the habit of reading, I have kept it up now for some years since I started at least. And when you can choose your own book, choose the book you want to read, you have a much wider variety to choose from. There's a much higher chance that you'll actually finish the book instead of just reading half of it or whatever, if it's a good book, obviously. There is a concept in psychology that talks about reward and you're being punished by rewards. It is about young people and how school forces them to mold into a certain shape. So you have a person, a 5-year-old, who really likes to draw, and they're really creative drawing, and they draw and they draw and they draw on their own initiative. They just draw. They improve a lot. Their drawings are amazing, so beautiful. But then the researchers, they realize that they're good at drawing, so then they tell them to, well, start producing these many drawings, or start producing drawings for us, and we'll pay you 1 candy or 2 candies or whatever, some payment. This leads the children often to not want to draw as much, because the reward just makes that a normal habit, a thing they have to do. It makes them forced to do it. So then they just start churning out as many drawings as possible to get the reward, obviously. But that in itself removes the inner motivation to do that, and that leads many of them to not draw it anymore. And their work also becomes of less quality, of worse quality, of less creativity, just because they want to churn out as much as possible to get as much reward as possible. That's why doing it from your own free will, from your own initiative, to you actually want to do it, doing it with inner motivation, just lets you keep on going for a much longer time, keep you actually doing it for a much longer time, keep you loving it for a much longer time, just to give you a more enjoyable life. And that's why you should take the initiative, take responsibility, take responsibility of your body, of your mind, of your soul, and choose where you go with it. Because if you do that, if you actually start improving, if you start reading books, if you start going outside, if you start training, your life is on an upward path and you're actually just feeling out better. If I were your parent, I would tell you that you have to meditate for 10 minutes or I won't let you outside, even though no parent does that. But if I were to tell you that, first you may be striving to not do it, so you will be crying and you will fighting everything, but then you may do it just so you can get outside. Sure, you may do it, but then later in life you don't want to do it anymore, when you don't need to do it to get outside, but then you don't want to do it freely. But somebody else recommends that, meditation is really good for your mind, it's really freeing, it's really good, you get clearer thoughts and you just live much better. Then you want to do it because you were forced when you were younger. But then you try it again with your own initiative and you just find a new enjoyment in it, find something new, something inspiring in it, because you wanted to do it yourself. That's why the best work comes when you are inspired by yourself. This is also why you should have a creative output, like making videos, like drawing, like journaling, like writing text, whatever you want to do, but just have a creative output that you yourself chose to do. It also lets you live more like you want, or it gives you motivation to also endure the other things. Because as Viktor Frankl has said many times when he still lived, is that you need to have something to live for. It's also, as Nietzsche said, the person who has a why can endure almost anyhow, something like that. But the core message is that you need to have a why. You need to want to do it, and the why is often strongest when it's personal.